Oh, hey, good afternoon. Good morning, everybody, depending on which part of Canada.
Oh, I can't hear you, Sheila.
I'm
Oh,
muted. I muted
there you are.
myself somehow. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this beautiful country that you're in. You are watching Rebel Roundup, our painfully live daily news and opinion show where you get all sorts of technical hiccups from me all the time. I'm joined today by my real life best friend, our Wednesday co-host, Lise Merle in Regina, Saskatchewan. And before we got on air, we were complaining about being forced to be inside and have jobs like functioning adults today because it is finally beautiful.
Yeah, it's a real hard struggle in the summer to put on work clothes and to get camera ready when the
Oh,
sun is
it's the
shining. But
worst.
obviously we're delighted to be here, and
Yes.
obviously we're delighted to do this for you. But the sun is shining in Saskatchewan and
Oh,
Alberta. It is a glorious summer day, and yet here we are with you. So
I
it's just such a great day.
I frequently describe my disposition as that of a tomato plant, as in, I hate the cold, I hate the gloom, I hate the rain. I know it's good for my crops, I know, but I hate it. I don't thrive in it. And our sunshine is so scarce. And the nice weather is so scarce that even when it's blistering hot, I must be out there being my tomato plant best. And I'm in the dungeon right now producing news, but that's okay because I'm a fully functioning adult, and these are the problems of being a fully functioning adult. And
Hmm.
actually, there's no place that I would rather be a fully functioning adult than at Rebel News with you,
True,
Lise, and all of our viewers at home. So I'll quit
true.
complaining. Life is actually really, really good. In spite of the downfall of the formerly great country that we are
Suffering.
yeah, bound to.
Yeah.
We should tell everybody what we are actually doing besides complaining about being inside when the weather's beautiful. This is our daily news and opinion show. As I said, it is very live, and sometimes we suffer technical difficulties, and by we, I actually mean me. Sometimes Elon Musk lets me down. I have Starlink, and I feel like that's maybe how parts of the United States feel about Elon Musk on any given day lately. But Anyway, if you are watching us on Rumble, uh, that's a great free speech platform. They don't care about your personal political views. And that's how a social media platform should be. It really should be the marketplace of ideas. And you guys are all the little peddlers in your little stalls. So if you are watching us on Rumble, you can support the work that we do out of the goodness of your heart, out of your own free will, no coercion there, by leaving us a Rumble rant. It helps us keep the lights on because, as you know, we'll never take a penny from Mark Carney to hold him to account. And how could we if we did? So Rumble rants over $5. We'll read them on air. If they're under that, we'll do our best to get to them. But we normally read those too. And even sometimes the free chats if they're funny or insightful. If you are watching us on YouTube, and again, I remain confused that we are still remonetized over there. Confused? I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall all the time because I think it's a mistake. But you know what? Let's roll with it. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can leave us a super chat. That's their paid chat. Same rules apply. But also, there's an extra way to help us. Again, I am confused that we are still remonetized. But if you missed the live version of the show and you see the show later on, the recorded version of the show, and you are moved by the spirit of generosity and your desire for a better conservative future for your progeny, and you want to leave us a little bit to help us here, you can leave a paid comment. It's called a super thanks. So those are the rules. Let's get into the news of the day because there's a pile of it. Mark Carney, after putting in about, I don't know, 90 seconds worth of work, he's taken his very first Trudeau-esque holiday. And like his predecessor, we don't know where he's going. We're just supposed to guess and watch the flight tracker, I guess. Mark Carney's on holidays. The government won't say where. He's got to recover from his booing at the Calgary Stampede.
Just got savagely booed at the Calgary Stampede. I mean, nobody deserves it more. It was such a beautiful, it was such a beautiful example of Albertans stressing their autonomy in that moment. I just loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah, and so now we're left to guess where he is, and
Mm.
the secrecy, as the National Post says, nothing new for Canadian leaders. They like to uh, keep tight-lipped about where they're going. They don't want intrepid journalists finding them out on
No.
the beach. Um,
Mhm. Well, there's no but to be fair, there's no polite way to say you're off gallivanting with the sex pests of the aristocracy in Britain at a hedonism festival. There's no polite way to say that to Canadians without their ears perking up. But where do we think Mark Carney went? Like if we had to guess, I don't think that it's anywhere tropical
I don't think
because
it's a.
it's
He's
no,
too
because it's
frail.
summertime. Yeah.
He's too frail.
Could you imagine that pasty effect being blasted by tropical sun? I can't see Mark Carney or Diana Fox Carney on a beach. Like, absolutely, this is not happening. They're gallivanting around England or Europe somewhere. They are having very, very fancy dinners with 800 or $1,200 bottles of wine, and they are fancying it up with their fancy aristocracy friends, with their friends from the aristocracy in Britain.
Yeah, those two walking vitamin D deficiency posters are not somewhere warm, soaking up the sun. I'll tell you that much. They look, as I've described them in previous shows, a vampire and his familiar.
Yeah,
Um,
Transylvania, maybe. Maybe that's like in a cave in Transylvania. Yes.
What do you guys think? Where are they vacationing? Here's what I think. I know the reason we don't know where they are is because they're definitely, most definitely not in Canada after the whole like elbows up, we're never traveling to the United States. And they might not be in the United States, but while saying to us, take advantage of your, what is it, the Canada Pass or whatever, bung up the national parks with people who aren't paying to be there. They're telling us to travel internally and visit the sights and sounds of Canada. I
Mhm.
am about 75% sure they're not doing that. They're off
Yeah.
somewhere else with their fancy friends taking a victory lap around us.
Yeah, yeah, and if you have a guess where they are, please leave it in the live chat. We wanna know where you think Mark Carney and Diana Fox Carney are holidaying this summer.
Yes. I believe these two lead a life of leisure, so that 90 seconds of work that they put in before they had to take a holiday, they're going to need about 30 days to recuperate.
That's absolutely true. Actually, whatever happened to Princess Margaret's estate on the island of Mystique? You know what? I
I
might
like
take it back.
Princess Margaret.
I did too. I did too. She was a salty thing and didn't take guff from nobody. But I wonder what happened to her estate. Like that actually, I might take it back about them not being in the Caribbean right now
The
because that
Caribbean,
is a
from what I understand, is not all that. No, which one is not all that nice? Is it the Caribbean, Cayman Islands? I forget. The one that is only 3 hours from Toronto. From what I understand, it's not all that.
Barbados, Bahamas.
But yeah, Barbados, Bahamas. Maybe that's it.
Right.
It's not all that nice. You know,
Hmm.
I
A
don't think
third
it gets
world
all that
country
nice. From what I understand, it doesn't get all that hot. It just sort of stays temperate all
all
the
year
time.
long.
Anyways, where do
Huh.
you think Count Count Carney and his familiar are vacationing this time of year after putting in, like I said, 90 seconds worth of work? These two don't look like they have a lot of uh, stamina,
Mhm.
as it
Not a
were.
campground. Not a campground.
No, they're not. They're not in a campground. Remember when Justin Trudeau's estranged, now divorced wife tried to get everybody to go tenting? Do you remember she did that video? And it was like, trust me, I'm a tenter. And then
Sure you are.
sure, 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 sure.
Sure,
All,
sure.
all the women who actually do rough it are like, no, no, you're not. You're just not.
No.
Um, let's scooch ahead to other liberal things. Canada's changing immigration. And this is from the Fraser Institute. I should write this up or maybe do a video on it because there's a lot of wild things in
It
here.
it is truly staggering.
The average annual immigration was 617,000, 618,000 from 2000 and, well, from Y2K to 2015 compared to over double once the Liberals took power. There's no possible way that we could integrate any of those people in any sort of effective way. From the total number of immigrants increased at a simple average annual rate of 4% compared to 15% under the Liberals. Permanent admissions as a share of total admissions declined by 0.83 percentage points per year. So actually, permanent admissions were going down. Anyways, this is a catastrophe, and this is quite literally why we are in the crisis we're in right now.
Yeah, if we're wondering why we're in a healthcare crisis, a housing crisis, an education crisis, it's because the Liberal Party of Canada, via the federal government of Canada, did not anticipate or did not plan or increase our public institutions to be able to handle this many people coming in. It is such a sorry, I'm getting a weird echo in my ear, guys. This does nothing to help Canada, and as a matter of fact, we've seen over the last 9 years how it's hindered us.
Can we bring up this infographic here? Because this shows that they figured out how to scam the system about roughly when. So the infographic between non-permanent and permanent immigration. It's purple versus green or blue, whatever it is. Look at this.
Holy Hannah.
So non-permanent is that students and temporary workers. They figured out how to scam the system because we really weren't budging for a very long time on increasing permanent immigration. And so what they did was they started coming in as students and temporary workers. And we started the whole industry of diploma mills to have these people come in. You can go to Joe Blow's strip mall trucking school and graduate. And then all of a sudden you get to be in Canada. And a lot of these temporary students come in and then they claim refugee status.
Yeah, asylum. Yeah, claim asylum. Yeah.
So this is their way where they started immediately gaming the system when just see how it's 2014 sort of it's increasing. Now I will give that we did have some labor shortages, particularly in the trades in some parts of this country. Why? Because your school counselor said everybody should be a teacher or a nurse. Or get an arts degree, and then we're like, we don't have any carpenters.
That's right.
We could use some welders out here in Alberta. And so we did take in some temporary foreign workers to deal with those labor shortages. But then it flatlines, and then the Liberals get in. And then it's just wild. The only receding of the tide was during COVID.
Yeah, unprecedented immigration. But even at the time that we were experiencing labor shortages, while the government was telling us that they were, that they were dedicated to bringing in more people, I don't think the labor shortages that our key sectors were experiencing were calling for that level of
No.
infiltration by foreign workers. And the crazy thing is when they're coming to Canada as temporary foreign workers, they are eating up all of the jobs that our young people would traditionally, entry level positions that our young people would start their careers doing. And then they are taking advantage of our social safety net, while also going back to their countries of origin to holiday.
Right.
So how is it that you're able to claim asylum and claim refugee status under some sort of like persecution? I'm here because I'm being persecuted by my home country, and yet go back to that home country. If you're here as a refugee claiming asylum, if you go back to your home country, you should not be allowed re-entry into Canada, because obviously it's safe enough for you to go back. So
Right. And you know, Syria has sort of sorted itself out with the help of the strong, stable hand of Donald Trump. Uh, there are a lot of people who probably need to go back home
Mhm.
right away,
Mhm.
right
Yeah.
away. And you know
Yeah.
what? Honestly, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Right.
We just can't. We can't. It's not cruelty. We just can't. If you were fleeing persecution and death, that's gone. So,
Right. No, but it's this level of growth has just been untenable for Canadians and anybody accessing any public service in Canada knows this really well. You know, we've got how many people have died on healthcare waiting lists? Every person
right.
that arrives in Canada gets healthcare, including students and foreign workers. And so every foreign worker and student that comes into Canada actually displaces uh, Canadian citizens out of the healthcare cycle, out of the education cycle, and out of all of the public institutions that are meant to serve us first. And yet, this is what we've got.
Now, that's not the only immigration problem we are currently facing. So today, Blacklocks breaks the news, as
Mm.
Blacklocks always does, that the ISIS butcher, and I'm not using a cutesy turn of phrase, quite literally an ISIS butcher who butchered a crucified prisoner, Egyptian Mustafa El-Didi and his son, they came to Canada. So
Uh-huh.
he has the ISIS butcher video in 2015. He comes to Canada. His son is denied permanent residency. So then he leaves, I think goes in through the United States, comes back in, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, stamped, you're in. Gets citizenship, the dad does. And then they are found just days, maybe hours away from causing a major mass casualty terror attack
Mhm.
in Toronto. And I think the Canadian security establishment, who's best known for their work on the truckers, um, they were tipped off by French police that this is going to be happening. So it's Ahmed El Didi and his son Mustafa. The son is Mustafa. He's Ahmed. I think it's Ahmed Mustafa El Didi. They were arrested July 28th by the RCMP. Um, they remain in custody. Thank goodness they didn't get bail. That's actually surprising to me, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
well done for once.
yeah. So last September 19th, I dug up this clip. Uh he Mark Miller, who was fired, and then now he's at the Justice Committee in the House of Commons. He said he is satisfied in the security screening. I dug up that clip. And I actually found another one too. I just didn't get a chance to post it before we came on air. Well, Larry Brock, by the way, at a subsequent hearing was like, what the hell is going on in your department?
Yeah.
Like, what, you guys, this was to Dominic LeBlanc, who's the public safety minister. Dominic LeBlanc at that very same hearing also testified that he was completely confident and satisfied in the security screening
Uh-huh.
coming out of CSIS and CBSA and immigration. And it's like, what? Confident in what security screening
Yeah.
precisely? Because
Yeah.
now, thanks to Blacklocks, we know that there was none. And it would
Yeah.
seem as though the ministers knew there was none when they were testifying at these things.
Well, yeah, and that's the craziest thing is when you are letting fully radicalized members of foreign nations into the country, when there is video evidence of them being completely radicalized, completely anti-Western, uh, and dangerous to the Canadian public, obviously, how can you, with a straight face, say that everything is functioning perfectly and all is well within our public institutions, including Canadian Border Services, Immigration Canada? These are all federally funded departments that are wholly committed to DEI, that have completely lost the plot on their mandates and what they're supposed to do, and yet we have Liberal Party members defending their work like they're doing, like they couldn't be doing a better job. We're gonna watch Mark Miller here.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
him up against Raquel
Mm.
Dancho of Kildona and St. Paul, and she's just excellent at SECU. That's the security committee. Between her, Larry Brock, and Melissa Lantzman, they just cut through these liberal idiots like a hot knife through butter. And when you watch this, you're like, what is wrong with you, Eastern Canada? That you
Yeah.
reelected these people who oversaw terrorists getting into the country. Anyways, let's watch this.
Allowed 3 alleged terrorists into our country through the immigration streams that came ultimately from what we've learned from the RCMP through Globe and Mail reporting, came within hours of murdering an untold number of innocent people, Canadians and Americans, in the latest alleged terrorists that's been gained entry into Canada under immigration streams under your watch, sir. And unfortunately, though it's been several weeks since the first 2 and a few weeks since the second iteration, we've yet to find out how this has happened, and to my knowledge, you've made no commitment of how you're going to fix it and prevent it from happening again. What we do know and understand is that your government in the past has directed public servants to fast-track immigration procedures, to cut some corners, bring in people as quickly as possible. And now we have a situation where we have 3 alleged terrorists on our hands, so it is reasonable to believe there could be more. So what specific steps have you taken the past few weeks to ensure no more alleged terrorists can gain entry to Canada through our immigration streams?
Thank you for the question, MP Dancho. As you know, there are a number of elements about this case that I cannot discuss publicly. I would also not assume a number of facts that are not in evidence currently, but again, we take these incidents very, very seriously. I announced in the French portion of my speech that we should come up with a result of our internal investigation within the next 2 weeks. Again, those will be made public. I think the discussion here is to see if and when there was any deficiency, if there was one, whether it is one that is systematic, and then how you then remedy that. What we will disclose to you in the next 2 weeks, obviously we can't disclose today, the investigation is not complete,
just to
but we
confirm,
prepared
though, you haven't
to close it in
taken
the
any
next 2 weeks.
measures to change any procedures whatsoever?
Again,
Nothing has changed?
As I've said to you, we're currently investigating if and when there were any deficiencies and what measures need to be taken.
With my knowledge of immigration, the procedures are already known. In fact, your department has provided a list of how the procedures are undertaken. So to me, it's very clear, if you can follow the trail over the last number of years, you should be able to determine how it is, for example, that the fact that we weren't able to determine there was a 2015 ISIS video where one of the alleged terrorists was dismembering a prisoner back in 2015 that was circulating the internet. And yet 3 years later, he gained entry into Canada. And in fact, went through 6 different immigration streams since that time and ultimately gained Canadian citizenship. And in that time, there were 4 red flags flagged for that individual. 3 of them were risk indicators. Obviously, none of them were taken seriously, or not to the extent that he was not allowed to continue down the immigration streams. What I did find interesting, though, Minister, is that in 2018, your government removed the requirement for police background checks, or officially called police clearance certificates, from the country of origin, from countries like Pakistan. And Pakistan ultimately is a bit of a high-risk country, to say the least, so it is puzzling that that was done in 2018. This security check was removed, and now we know a student visa from Pakistan gained entry into Canada. Have you reinstated this security requirement, for example? That is an easy step that you could have taken by now.
Again, currently, you know that this individual was an asylum seeker. You know, again, that there are differences with respect to different requirements and the reliability of police certificates at different stages. They vary in
excuse
their
me,
quality.
sorry, I may have
and they
misspoke,
play
but I'm
into
talking
our
about
risk
the
assessment.
student visa from Pakistan, the latest alleged terrorist, not the son, but the student visa
Sorry,
from Pakistan.
again, and this may be within or not within the scope of this discussion, Mr. Chair. Again, the person, the latest alleged individual came in as a student from Pakistan.
Correct.
Again, the details that you have in your chronologies are the ones that I'm at liberty to speak to at this time.
Thank you, Minister. But I'm asking specifically about how in 2018 your government removed the requirement for police clearance certificates, ultimately police background checks from the country of origin, from countries like Pakistan. Now we have a student visa holder from Pakistan who did not receive the police assuming he did not receive the police clearance certificate, unless you can correct me, but that requirement was removed in 2018. So there was a security check removed. That requirement was removed in 2018 from Pakistan for student visa holders. Now we have a situation where your government's brought in a student visa holder from Pakistan who's alleged to be a terrorist. He was on his way to Brooklyn, New York, to massacre Jews. And there was a situation where there could have been an additional level of screening that your government removed in 2018. So have you reinstated the security requirement? I'm hearing that you have not done that. I do feel that that's something quite easy that you could do that could provide another layer of security, so this doesn't happen again.
Again, we rely
Is that
on
not
our,
reasonable?
we rely on our security partners to advise us
Yeah.
as to the risk profile to take
Yeah.
with respect to
Which
these
is a common sense.
individuals.
Except they're not
Is it not?
screening them.
Again,
Right.
That's enough lies from Mark Miller. Except they're not screening them. Now, in your mind, hearken back to that graph we just showed you about the increase in temporary foreign students to the country. Now realize that the ones from high-risk areas are not being security screened. So they get
Nonsense.
here
Yes.
and they're not security screened. They get here. Look at that number. None of them are security screened from high-risk places like Pakistan. And then they get here and then they claim asylum without being screened. So
And-
we've got a ticking time bomb on our hands.
And even further than that, just the other day we were talking about the government of Canada forgiving
Right.
refugees and asylum seekers seeking entry into Canada for their convictions from their country of origin.
Right.
So even if there is a question on the application form that says, have you been convicted of a crime in your home country? And they say yes, the government of Canada just goes, well, good enough for us. Good enough.
Right.
Get in here, you guys. Get in here. But this was a masterclass by Mark Miller in no accountability, none whatsoever. And what the Liberals have done over the past 9 or 10 years is say, you know, we can't say anything at this time. We can't disclose anything, but we are investigating ourselves.
Right.
How has that worked out every single other time, Canada, when the Liberal government investigates itself? They find themselves completely in
Green
compliance.
slush fund.
That's right. We investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong with our behavior. Well, but that's right. Just wash their hands of their dirty deeds. But this is turning into a real big problem for Canada, I think, because as we see our crime statistics, and just listen, if you got 2 eyeballs and a functioning brainstem, you can see crime in your neighborhood right now increasing. You can see these things happen
Oh, for sure.
on the streets of Canada. And yet we have the government of Canada saying, nothing to see here, folks, nothing to see here.
I
Couldn't
think
possibly be because of our decisions.
police reported violent crime is up over 40% over the last decade.
Sure. I mean,
For sure.
drug trafficking, human trafficking, the whole gamut of major crimes. Those have increased probably proportionately. I wonder if we did a side by side about the increase in major crimes in Canada with the increase in immigration, whether there would be a correlation. If you will, I mean, if we asked a liberal government, they'd be
I
like,
bet you
"Nah,
could. I bet
no."
you could overlay that graph of rising crime with
Mhm.
that other graph of temporary foreign students and foreign workers and the immigration graph, and they would almost be identical.
They'd overlap. Yes, they
Yeah.
would. Yeah.
Yeah. What is Trump say? They're not sending their best. They're not sending
Well,
their best.
why if you were a foreign nation with a bunch of no good doing
Yeah.
troublemakers, who would you most want to offload onto an accepting open arm nation?
Oh,
It
I
would
don't.
be all of the troublemakers, the people that aren't doing your country any favors.
Well, I don't begrudge the Egyptians. They're very strong on security, given their proximity to Gaza. So if they can like offload a few terrorists to the international world, I'm sure they don't care. Egypt first, right? Like,
Right?
all right. On the flip side, I just don't like the idea of Canada being a net exporter of terrorism, because we often are used as like a stopping ground, a launch pad for these guys. If they're not attacking us, they're figuring out how to get into the United States to attack them. And I think that that's not all that neighborly.
Mhm.
This one is going to really put my good buddy Lise right off the rev limiter. It comes by way of Tamara Ugolini. And she was able to catch the screenshot off Facebook after they deleted this post on X. Waterloo Public Health chest feeding post obliterated by X in ruthless ratio. Public Health claims to follow the science, but promoting chest feeding alongside breastfeeding sparked significant backlash as X users criticized the gender-neutral term as absurd and biologically inaccurate, also dangerous. I did a video maybe a few months ago about the dangers of cross-sex hormones on the neonate. That's the newborn baby, but also the developing baby. These people who want to play God with their own bodies, and that's not enough for them. They have to do it on somebody else's body. The exposure of cross-sex hormones to developing babies in the womb and then the neonate through breast milk secretions, depending on your biological start point in this mess, it's gravely dangerous to the baby. It is not healthy, should not be encouraged. And synthetic hormones in the secretions of some of these folks, so that they can soothe whatever psychological issues they're going through, and using a living human baby as the prop to do it. It's catastrophically dangerous for the baby, and any Mengele who encourages it should be locked up and in prison. But all that is to say, Waterloo Public Health got ratioed and hard and deleted their post, but Tamara still found it up on Facebook. Want to breastfeed / chest feed their baby, and naturally they show a woman here because that's breastfeeding and that's the safest food for a baby. Don't wait. Practice latching right from birth. Our nurses will show you how. Book a free appointment at our baby feeding clinics. Yeah, I can't imagine why a brand new baby doesn't want to latch onto the hairy, barren chest of someone who started off as a biological male.
As a predator, like to a predator. Why would we not want to show a newborn infant latching on to a sex predator? Because that's what it is. Okay, if you were a biological male and you are attempting to nurse a baby that
for your own ego, for your own whatever.
Well, gratification.
Let's say that.
The end. That should ring alarm bells all over the place. But what the Waterloo, what is it? The Public Health Authority doesn't understand here is that this is going to drive women away in droves. This is minimizing our millennia of experience naturally feeding our babies.
Right.
Breastfeeding is the best way to feed your babies. Mothers and babies are designed to work together. Their bodies are designed to work together in those very, very early stages. Breast milk is naturally fortified with everything that a baby needs, including the ability to fend off infections and fend off diseases, and your body knows what to give the baby. When you and I've breastfed 5 babies, 5 of them, including twins. When you start adding synthetic hormones, when you start saying that men okay, can naturally feed babies, this is where we veer outside of the comfort zone of all women. This is an affront to our biological function and our spot in society. It's just so degrading, all of it. And I'm so happy to see that they got ratioed and that the people of Canada are defending mothers in this way.
Yeah, this stuff drives me crazy because these same Lalesh consultants, these same breastfeeding consultants are the ones who will tell you, and rightfully so, and I did the same thing, avoid caffeine, avoid alcohol, avoid spicy foods, like avoid all the things that might pass to your baby and not be good for them or
Yep.
upset their little tummies or whatever. And it's so important for their brain development. Like they need the antibodies, they need the fats, they need all of that from you. But it's at the same time, I was like, I'm not even taking Tylenol.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm going to tough it out. I'm not going anywhere near it. I suffered through debilitating anti-caffeine headaches for the very longest time. And at the same time, these people will simultaneously say, those cross-sex hormones that you're putting in your body to maintain whatever you're doing there, baby's fine with it. It's fine. It won't be passed along in the breast milk. What?
Well, and no, and that it is just patently insane. Sheila, I distinctly recall having curry and having two babies absolutely reject me for 6 hours until they were,
Yeah.
because it was just so different. It was
Yeah.
just so different for them. So everything that a mother does is passed on to her infant when she's breastfeeding, and these kind of like this kind of institutional capture
Yeah.
doesn't help doesn't help to encourage mothers to breastfeed their babies. As a matter of fact, this is going to push mothers away, because you're going to have a certain segment of mothers that goes, right, this is so weird now. This has gotten so weird that I'm just going to formula feed, which is like the worst, actually the worst thing that you could do for your baby. If you have the
Yeah.
ability to breastfeed, you should breastfeed. You were designed to nourish your baby for the first year
Right.
or 18 months of their life, or whatever it is, but certainly through their infant stages. And this is insane. I mean, this is just another.
Imagine a first-time mother going into one of these breastfeeding clinics and sitting down beside some bearded dude. Like thinking we're all here for the same reason. Yeah,
I'd be gone.
Yeah,
I'd be gone.
arrivederci.
Instantaneously gone. Yeah, it wouldn't even, my butt wouldn't even hit the seat. The baby would not come out of the carrier. We would be gone. And this is how you chase women away from this. And it is
Yeah.
the best way. And it is such a beautiful process. And all new mothers should be encouraged to the best of their ability to breastfeed their children. And this is going to do nothing to help that. Nothing.
Yeah. Yep. Find your omas, find your babushkas, ask them for advice.
Cabbage leaves.
Yeah.
Cabbage leaves.
Because these people are ideologically captured. Speaking of ideologically captured,
Sick.
how's that for a segue? This from Juno News, an exclusive. Nova Scotia confirms. It is insane. It funds and performs genital surgeries for teens. Exclusive documents reveal that doctors in Nova Scotia greenlit 5 surgeries to create artificial vaginas for patients listed as under 19 years old, which is the age of majority there. It's 18 here in God's country. So, citing privacy laws, of course. I don't know. I don't want to know who these people are, but I would love to know who. Once again, the Mengelas are out. I'd love to know who they are. They refuse to reveal whether any of the patients were minors, but acknowledge that Nova Scotia does fund surgeries for minors as of this year, as per policy and procedures. And then it goes on to detail how what they actually do. The Citizens Alliance of Nova Scotia provided True North with demographic data obtained through Freedom of Information requests. The data shows age breakdowns. You know, we should do this for Saskatchewan.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Okay, we're just going to
Okay.
replicate this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just making a note so that I can.
Yeah. Because
Send a research note.
viewers, as we all know, Alberta is the only province in the nation that has prohibited these kinds of experimental butchery on children as it pertains to transgender healthcare. And
Healthcare.
I'd be fascinated to learn how this is happening in other provinces. And quick shout out to Melanie Bennett. She is one of our dear friends here, me and Sheila Gunn-Reid. She's one of our dear friends. And she is doing some super heavy lifting on these issues in Canada. She is so talented and so dedicated. You should go see more of her work at Juno News. But what on earth are we doing, Canada? Pulling these experimental and non-evidence-based butchery surgeries on little kids. These are under 19. These kids are going to be in the medical pipeline for the rest of their lives. What are we doing? And as a matter of fact, the statistics show that the regret after having these surgeries doesn't hit until about 7 years later. But when it does, that is when transitioners are at their highest risk of suicide, because they realize after 7 years that they've been sold a bill of goods that they can absolutely not cash, that they are on this pipeline for the rest of their lives, that they've given up their sexual function, their reproductive function, and that they will never have a gratifying sex life. Why? Because we are chopping the healthy parts off of children in Canada. I will just go out on a crazy wide limb here and say people that are participating in this butchery should be imprisoned.
Completely.
This is not healthcare. This is butchery. This is craziness. I can't believe that this is happening.
Yeah. And I think it's only going to get worse because, again, Melanie Bennett just doing the heavy lifting on this. We know a lot of this indoctrination comes from activist teachers in the classroom.
Oh, does it? It starts there with social transition.
And then they say,
because medical transit, like it's part of a pipeline, right?
Right.
And so you start with the social transition. This is name changes, pronoun changes, gender and diversity clubs or gender and sexuality clubs in schools, GSAs, GDAs. Then when you reach the end of your social transition, well, then you're pipelined off to the medical community who welcomes you with open arms. Sheila Gunn Reid and I, this must have been, oh, Sheila, it's got to be going on 2 years now. We were looking into WPATH, the World Professional Association of Transgender Healthcare. If you go to their website and you look up their membership list, Canada has thousands of WPATH members. These are counselors, these are nurses, these are endocrinologists that manage all the hormone levels, wrong sex hormone levels. Then you have plastic surgeons, you have general surgeons, you have nurses, there is this huge network of health professionals, aka butchers, who are doing this to Canada's children. You can see a full list of who's practicing in your province on the WPATH website by going to the membership section of their website. Saskatchewan has 9 full-time members. Alberta has something, I want to say it was just under 50 full-time members.
Too many.
But thank goodness we have Premier Danielle Smith that put a stop to those people practicing their experimental and non-evidence-based butchery on children in Alberta. Thank God we have Danielle Smith to do that. But why this is being allowed to happen in Canada when all of Europe has backed off? The UK, France, Denmark, Switzerland, all of the United States, all of them are backing away from this because they are acknowledging what an insane set of circumstances had to happen to let this become allowable. This is not healthcare. This is not healthcare.
No, it's damaging an entire generation of children. It is the satanic panic of our time, I believe. Melanie Bennett sort of shows how this stuff starts. She's got a recording from I forget what it is, the Elementary Educators Union, anyways, in Ontario. Local President Rob Hammond explaining how a coalition of teachers' unions worked together to remove Conservative trustees and have them replaced with union-favored NDP trustees. This is electoral meddling, and these are your teachers ganging up against the will of the parents, because the trustees are supposed to be your voice in the education system.
Yep. And they are completely captured. Absolutely the most woke, insane, lunatic, left captured lunatics that are sitting on school boards in Canada. And this absolutely happened in the Saskatchewan municipal election this last November. We saw members of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation. We saw members of CUPE. We saw members of all of these public sector unions handpick their preferred school board candidates and make sure they were elected. This is happening across the country of Canada. This absolute election interference. This is what's happening. And parents cannot get a word in sideways. We are being attacked. We are being defamed. We are being slandered. And conservative governments have done nothing to stop this. And I'm of two minds on this. Do conservative governments not know that this is happening?
Of course
Or
they know,
do
'cause
they
it happens to them.
But do they not know that it's happening at the school board level? Or do they know and they're just not sure how to lick it? Because in Saskatchewan, in Regina, in the municipal elections, we have actual evidence of senior educrats from Regina Public Schools going on a tour of Regina Public Schools, calling emergency staff meetings within the walls of the schools saying, we have bigoted extremists, transphobe, homophobes running for the school board. Otherwise,
Why didn't they
known
just
as
name you
parents.
by name?
You know, right?
Just say
Otherwise,
Lee, okay? No need to flatter me. Just say my name.
you can just say it out loud. You just say it out loud. But this is unlawful election interference that conservative governments are not doing anything about. Unless what we're seeing in Canada right now is unless a school board is so financially unstable, like unless they're financially unaccountable and financially unstable and in the hole, in the red, to a point where the government is like, whoa, we got to get a handle on this. Governments do nothing. And this is what parents are saying, is we need governments to intervene to make sure that this stops happening. Parents may not be attacked for their beliefs. Parents may not be attacked for running for school boards. Parents may stop this. Stop. You guys are in government.
Yep.
Do something about this craziness, because it's happening across the country of Canada.
And they've got all the money to do it. These unions with their forced union dues, they extract the union dues from even the good teachers to do bad things.
Oh, and the good teachers are just furious about this, like absolutely furious about this. And they're also under the gun because if they say anything, well, then they lose their jobs. The teacher unions are not
Exactly.
going to back them up.
Exactly. Let's listen to this, a quick clip of what Melanie was able to get her hands on so you can just see how bad it is. And this is, you bet your ass, this is happening in every school board across the country.
Yep.
And now you know. So let's listen, and then we'll come back from that and we'll hit an ad break. We're way overdue for an ad break, and I realized Olivia's like, Sheila. So let's do
Sorry,
that.
Olivia.
So, the provincial election allowed us to try to do something. We took advantage of incentive funding from provincial. And from that, we were unsuccessful at both Nipissing and in Parry Sound Muskoka in terms of trying to get somebody other than a Tory elected. However, in that member engagement, we had our members out knocking on doors and campaigning. We were using our Facebook page. We were telling people who, we were encouraging. We weren't endorsing anybody, but we were encouraging people. Now, we might have not been successful there, but it paid dividends when we got to the municipal elections because we got the NDP candidate to actually run as one of the trustees. And so our success there was we went back to our fourth block, and we had 2 fourth block events, one in North Bay, one in Parry Sound, where we invited, it was called Meet the Trustees, and we had all the trustees were invited. We had
This happened in
OSSTF,
Regina.
the OTs, and also our retired teachers were invited as well. And we had an opportunity, we had good spread of food, we had live music, we gave the trustees an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes and then engage with us afterwards. The result was we got rid of the 2 card-carrying Tory members. One was the chair, one was the vice chair. They are no longer trustees.
Insane.
And that it was a huge success for us. And the NDP candidate, the NDP candidate is now the chairman of the Near North District School Board Trustees.
Imagine that. Imagine public sector unions interfering in municipal elections to get their little friends, their little NDP aligned friends onto local school boards. Imagine that. Who could have seen this coming other than us, who were telling the world in the municipal election, this is happening. Who's going to do something about this? Anyone? Is anyone going to do something about this? Wild.
You know what's funny? In all of that, they never actually gave any thought to the best interest of the education of those kids. All they cared about was, do we get our guys elected?
Yes.
Those could have been NDP criminals, NDP weirdos, but I repeat myself.
Guaranteed they're weirdos. If they're NDP, they're
Right.
weird.
Right.
If they're
Like,
NDP aligned, they're weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like saying a liberal mainstream media journalist. Yeah, I get it. It's the same thing. But they didn't express any concern about the right person being right for the job. They just wanted to get their team elected, no matter the will of the parents,
Yep.
and no matter the outcomes for the kids.
Well,
Says it all.
And I think that we really have to think about municipal elections and especially school board elections in a different way in Canada now
Yeah.
that we know that this is happening. Because where you have activist boards, radical left-wing activist boards, like you have right here in Regina, Saskatchewan, and
Yeah.
across the country, we need governments to come in and make sure that parents aren't being eviscerated by these lunatics. And by that, I mean, we may need a change, not may need, we absolutely need a change in legislation that guarantees parental involvement and participation at the board level. Do I think that it's going too far to suggest that only parents should be sitting on school boards? No, I would absolutely support that. Are we still going to have to lick the public sector union interference into
Yep.
municipal elections? Absolutely, yes. And that's going to take governments with balls to come in where there is absolute proof of election interference and prosecute those people. Fire them and prosecute them, and you will see an end to election interference at the municipal election level. But until we have governments that are going to intercede on behalf of parents, parents are just going to keep getting roundhoused by these lunatics.
All right, let's hit an ad break. Sorry, Olivia. Sorry, it's so late in the
Sorry,
show.
Olivia. Sorry.
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 Let's hit an ad break. We'll come back and we'll see what other perverty and weird things our country's up to.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same
We
rhetoric.
will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of assault-style firearms.
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted. While criminals run wild under liberal policy. But we are fighting back. By delaying and dismantling unjust legislation, by confronting policy at its source, like on the global stage at the United Nations, through our unmatched record of political lobbying and our Save Firearms program, actively saving firearms from government crushers in real time. And we're not done yet. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Alberta powers Canada, but Ottawa keeps limiting our potential. The Alberta Next panel wants your ideas to strengthen our sovereignty within a united Canada. Help decide what's next for Alberta. Visit alberta.ca/next.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right, let's skip ahead to the story of Travis Donraj, I believe is how you say his name.
Oh, Travis is peaking. He is waking up.
Yeah, I went to the Toronto Sun's column and then I went to the CBC's abject rejection of everything that Travis says. But the Toronto Sun published Donraj's resignation in full to them, to CBC. And he said, subject, resignation under duress. I know a little something about the toxic workplace they have down there at the CBC after spending 2 days at the debates commission inside of Radio Canada. So I know how they don't care how you are harassed and harangued if you don't think about or if you don't think about things the same way they do. Now imagine that being your everyday job and having to walk into that viper's pit every single day. Well, you've just imagined what Travis Donraj described. So he says, this is an involuntary resignation. I'm stepping down not by choice, but because the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation has made it impossible for me to continue my work with integrity. After years of service, most recently as the host of Canada Tonight with Travis Donraj, I have been systematically sidelined, retaliated against, and denied the editorial access and institutional support necessary to fulfill my public service role. When I joined CBC, I did so with a clear understanding of its mandate and a belief of its importance to Canadian democracy. That was your first mistake, Travis.
Yes.
I was told I would be a bold voice in journalism. I took that role seriously. I worked to elevate underrepresented stories, expand political balance. Again, you were very naive. And uphold the journalistic values Canadians expect from their public broadcaster. I don't think we expect much of them these days. Anyways, what happened behind the scenes at CBC too often contradicts what's shown to the public.
Oh,
Can confirm.
Yes. Preach.
Performative diversity, tokenism, and a system designed to elevate certain voices and diminish others. Again, can confirm. I was repeatedly denied access to key newsmakers. Internal booking and editorial protocols were weaponized to create structural barriers for some while empowering others. Favoritism. Particularly a small circle of senior Ottawa-based journalists.
You
know who they are.
You don't say, Travis.
One is bald and likes poutine, if I had to guess. When I questioned these imbalances, I was met with silence, resistance, and eventually retaliation. I was fighting for balance and accused of being on a crusade. My show, which I was initially told would be or was a strategic priority, was rebranded, my name removed, my access curtailed, my medical leave was whispered about in the newsroom. I was presented with a non-disclosure agreement tied to an investigation about a tweet about then CBC president Hot Roots having Catherine Tate. It was designed not to protect privacy, but to sign away my voice. When I refused, I was further marginalized. These were not isolated actions. They were part of a pattern that sent a clear message: fall in line or be removed. I stayed as long as I could, but CBC leadership left me with no reasonable path forward. This has taken a real toll on my health, my career, and my trust in an institution I once believed I could help reform from within. Again, very naive. But the greater harm is to the public, a broadcaster that no longer lives up to its mandate, a culture that resists accountability, and a system that punishes those who dare to challenge it. It is why the CBC is losing trust with Canadians and its audience. My departure is not the end of this story. Ooh, juicy. There's more to come, and it will be shared when the time is right. The time's right, Travis, right now.
It's right now.
Right now.
Yeah, no better time than right now.
Right now, you're the top of the news cycle. Keep it going, buddy. You have taken away my job, but you cannot and will not silence my voice. Sincerely, Travis Donraj. And then he sent a similar email to his colleagues. And he says at the end of that, for those who stood by me, thank you. I will miss the good people I worked with, many of whom are still trying to do journalism the public deserves under impossible conditions.
Yes.
I leave with clarity and my voice intact. You will hear more from me soon, Travis.
So this is such an interesting story for so many reasons, but not the least of which, hey, Travis, where was your union rep throughout all of this abuse and all of this harassment and all of this cancellation and all of this erasure? You would have had a union rep from Unifor. Okay, Unifor is the, help me, Sheila
The journalists union.
They're the journalists union in Canada. So Travis would have had access to a union rep while all of this was unraveling around. I'm positive they are. I'm positive they are.
They might be PSAC.
Oh, or it could be PSAC. In any case, Travis would have had a union to represent him in all of these grievances that he was having. And guess how much help they offered him, it looks like.
Yeah.
It looks like 0%.
Okay, so Unifor represents 10,000 media workers, including journalists at the CBC. The Canadian Media Guild also represents CBC employees, particularly those outside of Quebec and New Brunswick. Somebody who was failed by whatever union is representing him. I think whatever, you work at CBC as a non-contract employee, you're in the union, whether you like it or not. And those guys are enforcing, what would they call those? That's a yellow union, a union that works for the employer and not the worker.
Well, this is sort of what all unions do, don't you think?
Definitely,
Don't you
especially
think
public sector ones.
That's exactly right. But what Travis is doing here is publicly highlighting what so many of us know to be true about the CBC. And it's really interesting. Like, what makes this so interesting is to have somebody who has recently been on the inside of the CBC confirming what all of us have been saying for years about the weaponized, what did he call it? Weaponized diversity. Is that what he said? Or something along those lines, about their policies and procedures being weaponized against employees who are trying to ring a bell on these crazy things. And the wild thing is within the CBC proper, there are thousands of Travises who went into their career at the CBC thinking to themselves, oh, okay, I'm joining the pinnacle of Canadian media, only to very quickly learn, that's right, only to very quickly learn what a backwards left-leaning, not even left-leaning, but committed to the left, gong show that this place is. And this place is getting billions of dollars of taxpayer funding to continue on this path. Because if you have guaranteed taxpayer funding from the federal government, you have no incentive to get better. You, as a matter of fact, you have all of the incentive in the world to keep doing devious, awful, terrible work and lying to Canadians. You have all of the incentive you need. You're getting paid regardless of if you do a good job, which is what sets us here at Rebel apart and other independent media in Canada, is that if you don't
like us, we die.
If we don't do a good job for you, if we're not telling the stories that reflect you, you're not going to watch us. You're not going to tune in. You're not going to share our stuff. The people at the CBC get their paychecks and their pensions and all of their perks and their art collections and their disgusting real estate holdings guaranteed to them. And so what I hope this does, Sheila Gunn-Reid, what I really hope this does is I hope Travis's bravery in this moment, and he is waking up.
Sure.
This is what it sounds like when somebody from the left starts waking up to this craziness.
Yeah.
When you are actually a victim of the craziness. This is going to wake Travis up.
Yeah.
But I do hope that it piques a whole bunch of other CBC employees. I hope all of them look at this and go, I identify with what he's saying here. I recognize this to be true. And listen, courage is contagious. CBC employees, courage is contagious. Do the right thing. Stop being sellouts. Travis stopped being a sellout in this moment, and for that, I'm real proud of him.
Sure.
Like you can't fault a guy who is standing in the truth in this moment. It is incredible to watch. It is incredible to watch.
Sometimes people do have to be mugged by reality to see what other people have been telling you.
It's the only way. It's the only way.
Some people have to learn the hard way. Like, I'm sure for years people were saying on the outside, I know I have been saying stuff like CBC is awful. It doesn't reflect Canadians. It reflects this many Canadians. And by this many, I mean the number of people who actually watch it, their flagship shows. It doesn't reflect the diversity of viewpoints of Canadians. They only have acceptable
narratives.
And acceptable conservatives, by which I mean Andrew Coyne, on their panel shows. Like, he passes for a conservative over there.
Which is insane. Which is patently insane. And Travis Danaraj did mention in one of his pieces about being told that he could not invite conservative voices onto his show. They were welcome to be show. And so that really says something about CBC's editorial process,
Right.
doesn't it? When they're pre-vetting actual conservatives from being able to have a platform on their programs.
Yeah, it's up to now, I guess, the other people of the CBC, the good ones. Are they going to be a cog on the sprocket of the machine that upholds this system? Or are they going to be a Travis, I guess?
It depends.
It's up
It
to them.
depends. We're gonna watch and see. But good for
Let's
Travis.
find out.
Welcome to the light side, Travis. Good to have you.
That's right. Let's go talk about some gun-related issues, and everything we don't get to left on the day, we can just bump ahead for tomorrow because I think they're timely pieces. Apparently, now I don't like how this happened, and I think this is the wrong outcome, but so we can open carry in this country? This is what this jury decision means, I guess, because they bought this crazy defense. So a jury acquits a teen who claimed self-defense in fatal Toronto shooting, saying he carried a gun because his neighborhood was like Iraq. Now that is an indictment of Toronto. Olivia Chow's Toronto, for sure. But if this kid is allowed to go around shooting people because of the high crime rate, how come he gets to carry a gun and I don't? And I won't shoot up a school.
Right. This is going to be a question that legal gun owners are going to be asking. As a matter of fact, they've already begun saying, okay, well, if this is the measure of acceptability in Canada, if you feel like you are in danger, if just walking through your community, is this an acceptable defense? And a jury has said yes. So yeah. Is this what's like? I love this for us. Number one, I love this for us. I don't think there should be any limits on where or when you use.
I do believe the individuals carrying the firearms for self-defense should be properly vetted and trained.
So do I.
Like the rest of us lawful firearms owners who are vetted and trained, and vetted, I should say, every single day. I don't think 20-year-olds with PTSD from being in a war zone should be taking firearms to school. I don't think that's the way that this should play out. But the underlying issue is we're in a dangerous place and we should be allowed to defend ourselves. And so to go into this, a Toronto jury on Friday acquitted a 20-year-old man of second-degree murder, accepting his claim that he fired 4 shots in self-defense. Again, I bet you didn't get your firearm the same way I did. Believing that, and like, you should not have this out at school. Like, this is, even if you were a fully vetted licensed firearms owner, if that's a handgun, you must go directly from home to the range and back.
Right.
That's it. You can't go anywhere else. You can't even plink it off in the backyard. Believing the victim, 18-year-old Jefferson Guerrier, was lunging at him with a knife outside a high school in the city's East End. It happened on Halloween. The incident was filmed on cell phone. The jury deliberated for about a day and found the man not guilty of reckless discharge of a firearm that resulted in his brother being shot. Okay, the man was 17 at the time. He was tried under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. There is no question that Guerrier, who wasn't a student at the school near Markham Road and Highway 401, had a knife, while the accused, a student, had a firearm. In her closing address earlier this week, Crown Attorney Bev Olesko called him the most dangerous person at the school that afternoon. That could be
the knife carrier?
The knife carrier.
Yeah.
The accused testified he showed Guerrier he had a pistol tucked into his waistband in the hope that he would realize it's a real gun. I don't know how this kid got off. This is a real gun and he should not have had it. I was just trying to protect myself. Okay, but why don't I get to use that excuse? Is it because I'm not from Iraq, but I'm from Ardrossan? Is that it?
Yes. Yeah. It kind of feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? But another part of the story is that he was acquitted by a jury who would also live in the same area that he lives in. So the jury would have understood exactly what he was talking about when he said, you know, this is as dangerous as Iraq, or he felt like it was as dangerous as Iraq. So it's really interesting the way that they sided with him, knowing full well what the community is like and what living there is like for young people. And yet you have law-abiding gun owners that are every day having their rights and their property being confiscated by the government, or being infringed upon by the government. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. They said the accused testified he spent some of his childhood in Iraq. So how much? Like, when did he come here? I think that's important to know. If you came here as like a 3-year-old, I think that's a little bit different than coming here as a 15-year-old. And he said, where there's a tradition of people shooting guns in the air at weddings and funerals. I wish. But the thing is, okay, so he has a culture where he's in and around firearms all the time. Me too.
Right.
Me
Same.
too. Same.
Same.
But we don't shoot them in the air at weddings and funerals. Actually, you know what? At my funeral, you guys can do that. His lenient uncles let him shoot guns when his dad wasn't around. This is not an excuse, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, what does this mean for the rest of us?
Right.
Probably nothing, because the rules don't apply equally to all of us, I guess. I think
Well,
that's it.
we already know that, Sheila.
Yeah.
We already know that. We have a 2-tiered judiciary, we have 2-tiered policing, we have 2-tiered healthcare, we have 2-tiered everything in Canada. And you're either one of the have all the rights, or you're going to be one of the have none of the rights. And so right now, especially Western Canadians are on the have none of the rights scale.
Do you guys want, you know what? I was going to say, we do have that footage of the shooting, but then at the same time, I'm like, you guys can find it on X. I don't want to, I have to, because of YouTube
We have to get around that,
rules
right?
about brandishing firearms. I don't know. You know, like, they would make an exception for news, but then, as I said off the top of the show, I think what's happening to us is a glitch, and I don't want to dance with the devil right now
Okay.
and risk it. But you guys can find it out there. Real on X, Real Traduki, exactly how it sounds. That's how it's spelled. You guys can find it. I'm not gonna show it. Okay. I just don't look. We're playing with fire. Let's go to this next thing. While apparently refugees from Iraq are okay to shoot at school and use self-defense, the RCMP, aided by the Carney Liberals, continuing to quietly move more firearms from non-restricted to prohibited. This time it's the Sterling Arms R9 MK1. This is the worst power that the RCMP has, is that they can, without an act of parliament, without evidence, without producing evidence, without going before the legislators who should be held accountable. Like, if a legislator does this to you, you can vote them out the next time. You can organize against them. But this is some firearms office nerd in a corner office, just without any sort of accountability, nameless, faceless RCMP
unaccountable bureaucrat. Yes.
Bureaucrat, not even like a guy in a uniform, just an unaccountable bureaucrat will ban your guns. And through their act, you become a criminal. You go to bed thinking, the R9 MK1, it's safely in the gun safe, stored the way it is. I did everything right to get it. It's non-restricted, so I don't even have to register it. Sitting there in the gun safe, harming no one. You wake up in the morning, you're a firearms criminal. You didn't do anything wrong, and you are in possession of a prohibited firearm.
Yep. And this is why it's so important. I'll say it again, especially for Western provinces, to start taking away some of the influence of the RCMP and start dumping resources into our own sheriff's offices, marshal's offices, and other police forces, because the reach of the RCMP has gotten so great, and because their overreaches, their demonstrable overreaches have been so obvious to Canada, because what this unelected bureaucrat at the RCMP did, Sheila, was look at the R9 MK1 and go, "Whoa, that looks
That
scary.
looks cool.
That looks no,
Looks
that
cool.
looks scary. I'm scared
Right.
of that. I don't want to. Oh, I don't want my buddies out in uniform to ever have to look at one of those." And they arbitrarily banned it based on what it looks like, not on crime stats. Okay, this is
Right.
they don't have any statistics that say people that own these weapons are using these weapons in any kind of illegal capacity to such an extent that we should outlaw them. They literally looked at this firearm and went, "Oh, scary. Oh, scary. This scary. This makes see this
It looks
it
cool.
looks fierce, right? Like it looks fierce." And this is why they banned it. But this is what makes it so. For the Western provinces that are developing their own police forces, notably Alberta and Saskatchewan, there are police forces across the country that have that that work independently of the RCMP. But again, like so many federally funded institutions, the RCMP has gotten so big for its britches and has gotten so far away from its mandate that this is just another example of institutional failure.
Yeah, and for anybody who's like, "Oh, that looks like an assault weapon," it's a 5-shot rifle. It's a
yeah.
5-shot rifle. It was non-restricted. It has not been involved in a spate of crimes. It just
Nope.
looks wicked. And so it
Yeah.
scared some nerd
It
in the
did.
firearms office. And so now you wake up in the morning and you're like, I guess I'm a criminal now. Somebody
Yeah.
I didn't no, not just somebody I didn't vote for, somebody nobody
Nobody
voted
voted for. Yes.
and you don't know who it is, and you can't hold them to account, has this power that they wield to turn you into public enemy number one while you sleep. And you don't even know it happened to you until somebody pulls the data or you get a letter in the mail from the RCMP Chief Firearms Office. And even then, you might never get a letter in the mail. See, look it's cool. Even then, you might not get a letter in the mail because these things are non-restricted. So the government doesn't even know who has them. They are making people criminals, and then they have no ability to track down who their new criminals are, thanks to these power-hungry, weaponized nerds at the RCMP. And one of the first things that a new conservative government should do, from my lips to God's ears, is strip the RCMP of this power. This stuff should all go before Parliament.
Oh, dear, I got a list of about 100 things, that the next conservative government needs to do. But yes, this is chief amongst them, because it is such an obvious overreach.
Yeah, it is. It's disgusting. Okay, let's go to one last thing, and then everything else we could sort of bump ahead for tomorrow because it's still least tomorrow. And then we'll do a couple of chats. This one. Nice of the Calgary police to remind newcomers who haven't learned English yet not to assault women at the Stampede. And so last week we were talking about this on the show. I think it was myself and Tamara.
Tamara, yeah.
About the swimming pool stuff, where the German swimming pools put out this PSA about not groping in the pool, but it was like
don't
portly
German
lady.
German Fräuleins.
Oh yeah.
Don't assault the newcomers and touch their buttocks in the public pools.
Not only were they newcomers, they were amputee newcomers. Like, we had to put that extra identity box on there. It was beyond parody. If someone had said, Sheila, I made this jokey PSA, I would be like, you guys, come on, no one, that's too jokey. But it was real.
Yeah.
They also had was it the white German guy? They may as well put lederhosen on him, haranguing the new German changing in the change room, like, don't bother people in the change room. So anyways, we talked about that last week. We were like, ha ha ha, but we should have kept our little giggles to ourselves because Canada has its own problem with this nonsense. So as you know, Calgary is surviving the greatest outdoor show on earth, which is the Calgary Stampede.
My husband is there right now.
Is he? Dang, we should have went.
He's at the he went to the Chucks last night. He
Nice.
went to the Chucks last night. Yeah. I was like, oh, stay out of trouble. Stay out of
Yeah,
trouble.
stay out of trouble, stay off the Coors Lights. So event safety, clear, voluntary, and specific consent. And then we've got, of course, the English versions. Agreeing to sexual activity. You know what? I must tell you, the only time I ever heard from Dina Hinshaw in years gone by, in the pre-COVID years, the only time that your public health officer in Alberta ever made an announcement, the only time you ever knew her face or identity, anytime she was ever quoted in a news article, was when she was warning people about the uptick of STDs post Stampede. Not a word of lie. I'll dig up the articles for you. And that was like, that's the only time I want to hear from that woman. Because she is like a, but she was a buzzkill. I'll just put it that way, just to look at. But anyways, so they go through, like, they do it in English, but then boop-a-doo, we've got it in another language and in yet another language. And so, I mean, I think we put it in English just to say that we were treating everybody fairly, but I think we know the targeted audience here.
I remember back in the day being annoyed at English and then French. And I'm not annoyed at English, but like I would be annoyed at French when they would include French. Now I'm like, oh my God, what I wouldn't do to go back to just English and French. Just the official languages, please, thank you.
Yeah. So anyways, I think we all know the targeted audience of that PSA. Yeah. So anyways, just be wary. Stampeders.
Yeah. Consent requires both sides to say yes all the time.
Right. Unless you're a Hollywood woman, and then apparently you can do whatever you feel like.
Ooh. What are we talking about?
Jenny McCarthy, didn't she get all handsy with like a very young
Justin Bieber?
And everyone's like, ha 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 ha. And I was like, gross. If you did that to my son, I would tie you in a knot and throw you down a hill.
Yeah, because he was like 15 or 16 or something at the time. Yeah.
Hollywood weirdos. It's not just the men. All right. Don Allen gives us $5. And I don't see a chat there, but if there were a chat, I'm sorry we missed it. Maybe the kids behind the screen can find it for us.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Don, regardless. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Politicians never lie. 222 says, great reporting, ladies, and looking hot. Yeah, it is. It's like 29 degrees outside. We're
summertime. You like the summer. He likes the summer glow.
Yeah. That's sun damage from being outside at too many rodeos. Thank you.
My sunburn has thankfully completely sloughed off my face. Now this is new face. Got new face. Yeah.
Sloughing.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for that.
Plum Duff 69 $5 says, hey Sheila, where'd you get that shirt? Well, I'd love to tell you, but I didn't buy it. It was a gift. It's so hypnotic. I can imagine all kinds of crimes I could get away with if I was wearing that. It's just your run-of-the-mill plaid, but I think it's the lighting and the camera that makes it look more, I don't know.
It's got a sweet fade. It's a sweet faded plaid. It's beautiful.
Yes. No, I wish I could tell you if I had to guess. You won't be able to get one because I think it's from PV Mart, the now defunct farm supply store. R.I.P.
Miss you, PV Mart.
Already, I miss you already. Like spring planting season was hard without PV Mart. But if I had to guess, I think it's from PV Mart. So you probably wouldn't get one if you wanted to. But it is very special to me.
It's a collector's piece now.
All right. I think that's it. Olivia, do we have any more chats or can we wrap up? Okay, we're good. Lise Merle, thank you very much for joining me. I will look forward to our time together tomorrow.
Well, I can't wait to see you. And until then, thanks so much for tuning in, Canada. We love to have you.
Yeah. Thanks, Olivia. Efron, everybody works behind the scenes to make sure the show's there for you, however you want to watch it, wherever you want to watch it. Thanks to those of you who shared the show with someone you think needs to see it. That is the most affordable, as in it's free, way to help out Rebel News. And for those of you who chip in a little bit to keep the lights on here, we could not do this without you. We just couldn't. It would be impossible. We'll never be CBC.
Thank God.
Thank God for that. I think that's it. Thanks, everybody. As my friend David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.